That was supposed to be the greatest day of her life, a defining moment, one she had worked her whole life for. But instead, it turned into a nightmare. Jasmine Carter stepped out of her black SUV, her tennis bag slung over her shoulder, and took in the scene before her. The bright California sun glinted off the glass doors of the hotel, where she was supposed to meet her backup team before heading to one of the biggest tournaments of her career. She had made it. After years of training, sacrifice, and pushing herself harder than anyone ever thought possible, she had finally earned her spot on the world stage. The thought sent a thrill through her veins. She adjusted her sunglasses and took a deep breath, feeling the familiar tension of pre-match nerves. Her coach, Lisa, had told her to trust the process, to focus on the game, but Jasmine knew that was easier said than done. Tennis was not just a sport to her, it was her life. And today, she had to prove she belonged among the best. As she walked toward the entrance, the streets bustling with early morning activity, she barely noticed the police car parked nearby. She had no reason to. She was just another person going about her day, right? But then, before she even reached the doors, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Hey, you, stop right there." Jasmine turned, surprised, her heart skipping a beat. A police officer, tall and broad, was striding toward her, his hand resting near his belt. His eyes were sharp, scanning her up and down, his expression hard to read. She hesitated, confused. "Me?" The officer's expression darkened. "Yeah, you. What are you doing here?" Jasmine frowned. "I'm checking into the hotel. I have a tournament." Before she could finish her sentence, he stepped closer, his voice turning sharper. "Don't play games with me. We got a report of a suspicious individual around here, and you fit the description." Her stomach clenched. A suspicious individual? What did that even mean? She was wearing designer sneakers, a hoodie from a well-known brand, and carrying a professional tennis bag. How did that make her suspicious? "Sir, I think there's a misunderstanding," she said carefully, keeping her voice even. "I'm a tennis player. I have a match tomorrow. I'm staying here with my team." But the officer did not seem interested in explanations. His gaze lingered on her face, then dropped to her bag as if he expected to find something dangerous inside. And then, before she could react, he took a step closer, too close, and reached for her arm. "Step aside," he ordered. Jasmine's breath caught. "Wait, what?" The next moment, pain shot through her leg as he kicked the side of her calf hard enough to make her stumble. She gasped, barely managing to keep her balance, her pulse racing. The shock of it hit her harder than the actual pain. Had he really just... People on the street turned to look. A couple whispered to each other. A man across the sidewalk pulled out his phone. The tension in the air thickened. Jasmine's mind whirled. She wanted to yell, to demand answers, but she knew better than to escalate the situation. She had seen stories like this before. People who looked like her being mistreated, accused of things they did not do. She never thought she would be one of them, but before she could figure out what to do next, another voice rang out. "Let go of her, right now." The officer's grip tightened, but his eyes flickered toward the source of the voice. Jasmine turned her head just enough to see them, her backup team, storming out of the hotel. Lisa, her coach, her agent Marcus, and her trainer Jordan. Their faces were set with determination, their presence undeniable, and they were not alone. Camera crew followed, along with a small crowd that had gathered. Jasmine felt something shift. The power in the moment changed. She was no longer alone. The officer hesitated. His posture stiffened as he realized the attention on him. But was it too late? The damage was done. The world was watching. And now, everything was about to change. The officer's grip on Jasmine's arm loosened slightly, but his face remained tense, his jaw set like stone. He was not letting go just yet. His eyes flickered to Lisa, her coach, and then to Marcus, her agent, who had already pulled out his phone, recording every second of what was happening. Jordan, her trainer, stood with his arms crossed, muscles tense like he was ready to step in if things got worse. Lisa stepped forward first, her voice sharp but controlled. What exactly are you doing? She is a professional athlete here for a tournament. She has done nothing wrong. The officer barely glanced at her. Step back, ma'am. This does not concern you. Oh, it absolutely does. Marcus shot back, still recording. Because you just put hands on my client. And trust me, you do not want to make this worse for yourself. Jasmine's pulse pounded in her ears. She had dealt with pressure before, facing top-ranked opponents playing in front of thousands of people. But this was different. Her body tensed as she forced herself to breathe, to stay calm. She reacted the wrong way. She knew exactly how this could go. But why was this happening in the first place? She had done nothing suspicious. Nothing that should have drawn attention. Was it just because of how she looked? The thought made her stomach churn. The officer's eyes darted to the growing crowd. People were watching now, some whispering, others openly filming with their phones. The tension in the air was thick, the weight of too many unspoken words pressing down on all of them. Finally, he let go of her arm, but not before giving her a long, hard look. Just making sure everything is in order. Lisa stepped protectively between them. And did you find anything out of order? The officer's lips pressed into a thin line. He did not answer. Instead, he adjusted his belt, glanced around, and took a step back. Just do not cause any trouble. Trouble. The word stung, but Jasmine kept her expression neutral. She would not let him see the frustration, the anger, the confusion swirling inside her. Then just like that, he turned and walked back toward his patrol car. But the weight of what had just happened did not disappear with him. It hung in the air, heavy and unshakable. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Marcus let out a sharp breath, shaking his head. Unbelievable. Lisa turned to Jasmine, her expression softening. Are you okay? Jasmine nodded, but she was not sure if she meant it. I think so. Jordan was still watching the officer, his jaw clenched. You should not have had to go through that. Jasmine swallowed hard. She knew that. She had spent her entire career proving herself, proving that she belonged on the courts, that she deserved the recognition, the sponsorships, the opportunities. And yet, in the span of just a few minutes, none of that had mattered. She took a breath, then another. She would not let this shake her. Not now. Not when she had come so far. Marcus was already typing something on his phone, his face unreadable. This is going viral, he muttered. People need to see this. Jasmine's stomach tightened. Marcus, I know, he said quickly, glancing up at her. I will handle it the right way. But this cannot be ignored. Lisa nodded, her expression serious. We will talk about this later. Right now, we need to get inside, get you settled. You have a match to focus on. Jasmine hesitated, then nodded. She had trained too hard for this moment. She could not let one awful experience define everything, but as she stepped inside the hotel, the echoes of what had just happened followed her. She could still feel the eyes on her, the tension in the air, and most of all, the unshakable question in her mind. Was this over, or was it just beginning? Inside the hotel, the air was crisp with the scent of polished wood and fresh linen, but Jasmine barely noticed. Her pulse still felt uneven, her mind replaying what had just happened outside. Lisa walked beside her, her steps firm and deliberate, as if making sure Jasmine would not be left alone for even a second. Marcus was already on his phone, his face tense as he whispered into the receiver. She could guess who he was talking to. Publicists, media contacts, people who would know exactly what to do with a situation like this. Jordan held the door to the elevator open as they stepped in, his jaw still clenched. That guy had no business putting hands on you. Jasmine exhaled slowly, forcing herself to shake off the lingering weight of the officer's grip. I do not want this to be the story, she murmured. I just want to focus on the game. Marcus lowered his phone and looked at her. Jazz, this is the story now. People already saw what happened. By tomorrow morning, this is going to be everywhere. Jasmine met his gaze. She could see the frustration behind his words, but also something else. Concern. She did not doubt that Marcus would fight this battle for her. But that was the problem. She did not want to fight. Not today. Not now. The elevator doors slid open and they stepped out into the hallway. Their rooms were just down the corridor and Lisa handed Jasmine her keycard. "Get some rest," she said gently. "I know your mind is racing, but you need to be sharp for tomorrow." Jasmine nodded, but as she opened the door to her room and stepped inside, she knew sleep would be impossible. She tossed her bag onto the chair and sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing her hands over her face. The silence of the room felt too heavy, pressing in on her. Her phone vibrated. A message from her mother. "Mom, I saw the video. Are you okay?" She swallowed hard. The fact that her mom had already seen it meant the clip was spreading faster than she thought. She typed back, "Jasmine, I'm fine, just trying to focus on the match." The reply came almost instantly. "Mom, proud of you. Stay strong. Call me when you can." Jasmine sighed and set her phone down. She knew her mom was worried. This was not just about tennis anymore. It was about everything she had spent her whole life proving. That she was more than what people saw on the surface. That she had earned her place here. A knock on the door made her jump slightly. She stood up and opened it to find Lisa standing there, arms crossed. "You need to see this." Jasmine frowned. "What now?" Lisa held up her phone. A video was playing. The same moment from earlier, the officer grabbing Jasmine, the way she had stumbled, the tension in the air. But it was not just the clip. There were reactions now. Thousands of them. News outlets had already picked it up. Headlines flashed across the screen. Tennis star harassed before major tournament. Racial profiling incident sparks outrage in sports. World justice for Jasmine Carter trending as fans react. Jasmine's breath hitched. She had known this would get attention, but this was something else entirely. She took the phone, scrolling through comments, tweets, messages. Celebrities, athletes, people she had never met were speaking up. Some demanded an apology. Others called for the officer's suspension. And then there were the ones telling her to just focus on tennis or claiming the video did not show the full story. Her stomach twisted. Lisa placed a hand on her shoulder. "People are behind you, but I need to know. How do you want to handle this?" Jasmine hesitated. Every choice she made from here on would shape the next few days, maybe even longer. She wanted to play, to block out the noise and just compete. But ignoring this was not an option anymore. Before she could answer, Marcus appeared in the hallway, his face tight with urgency. "We have a problem," he said. "The officer just made a statement." Jasmine's heart pounded. "What?" Marcus handed her his phone. She read the words on the screen, her hands gripping the edges of the device. The officer was claiming she had been acting suspicious, that she had refused to cooperate, that he had only been doing his job. The frustration inside her burned. Lisa saw the look on her face. "This is not over." Jasmine swallowed, the lump in her throat. No, it was not, and she had no idea what was coming next.